I'm just going to record it. This, and I have to say, this is the Youth and Family Services Advisory Board meeting on July 13th, 2021. In attendance, I'm going to go around and let you guys introduce yourself. This will be interesting. There you go.
My name is Leah. That's it?
Yeah, you could say you're a student at NFA.
Oh, yes, I go to NFA. I am a junior.
All right.
Hi, Kim Seifert Charles. I'm from Waterford Juvenile Court.
All right.
Bob McKinney, Community Policing Officer, North PD.
Hi, Sue Dove, Public Health Nurse with the Uncas Health District.
All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna kind of, you guys all know, there's no way to put everything on. Maybe, yeah, good idea. All right. Perfect. The back of my head will be, or I can move too. Maybe if I go like right here.
Wait, right here? Yeah.
Oh, right here. Okay, cool. All right, sweet. So thanks for coming, everyone. It's been forever since we've been in person because I think we started in March on the phone.
Yep.
And then, you know, we've been virtual ever since. So we don't have enough people to like approve any minutes or anything, so we'll just skip that part. And then I just wanted to like have people let's update each other on what's going on, but with in mind too, like what are you guys seeing for like needs for kids in the community in terms of like programming? So, you know, from your perspective, you know, and your peers, like what you think would be beneficial, kind of what you're working on right now, and what you see going on. Yeah, and whatever else you guys think, like what I really want to use the meeting to start to think about what we can start doing in the fall for like different programming than we already do, because I know the needs are changing. So, and I'll do my update last. Wants to go first? Okay.
So we are up and running Waterford Juvenile Court completely. That just happened a couple weeks ago. Pre-trials were not being seen in person. Police were not giving summons dates. Everything's changed from that. So we're all up running. You come in for court. Everything is being heard by the judge. We do have a new judge, Judge Hoffman. She's fantastic. The only thing that's not being seen is our detention hearings. Those are still being heard in Hartford. There is some big legislation changes. I'm sure maybe Aaron and Officer McKinney know about them in regards to July 1st with the marijuana charges. So I think I'm gonna say this right. The first marijuana charge, if it's less than 4 ounces of marijuana, the police have the jurisdiction to let the child go or send them to the JRB. The second one has to go to the JRB before it comes to juvenile court. And then the third one can come to juvenile court and it can be heard there. If the police don't go through that process, we just do the process. So a lot of times if a police officer arrests at nighttime and they don't know, you know, they're not the juvenile officer or something, they don't really understand the JRB, a lot of times we'll just go through that process.
And send them back to us, right?
Right, so
Yeah.
we'll call the local place and say, hey, have you, you know, have you seen this kid? Do you know how they got in a write-up before? Maybe do a little bit of work before.
Okay.
They did raise the age from 7 to 10. So to get arrested, you have to come to court, you have to be 10. We didn't see 7, 8, 9-year-olds, barely. We do see 10 and 11-year-olds, but it really more was a DCF issue if a 7 and 8-year-old came to us, and the judge would hold DCF accountable for that. What else is new for us? We have some staffing changing in the next year. With the big retirements coming up. Our cases, the cases we're seeing are more serious cases. I'm sure everybody's heard that crime's up, juvenile crime is all over the news, but the cases that we are seeing are not really the breach of pieces, the disorderlies. They are higher risk kids.
Is there like a trend in, I mean, I know like one town at one point was seeing like a lot of car thefts. Like, is there a trend in what you guys are seeing in terms of the
Yes,
crime?
so while the car theft thing does seem to be a big deal, what our experience in Waterford Court is they're coming from out of town and they're stealing the cars. So while the police officers might be dealing with them, they're not really our kids getting arrested. Actually, I think minimal kids have have been getting arrested for that. A lot of the trespassing, larceny, other larcenies, stealing credit cards, assaults, serious assaults, guns, but not that the car theft really isn't an issue for our courthouse. We do have a diversionary, if somebody is arrested for a car theft, we do have a diversionary program, but we don't really get to utilize it because we don't have that issue. So, yeah, I'm trying to think of needs. We really have gotten the open, we've been told, find out what your family's needs, and we have flex funding and we have resources, so we've been very lucky that we can utilize those for our families. We've been able to get our families phones and incentivizing kids. In regards to programs, we do have our LINK program that's starting to be utilized more.
What's that called?
It's a LINK program. It used to be, what was it out of Norwich?
Child, Youth and Family Support Center, so whatever.
Yeah.
YFS, that, I don't remember.
So it's where our medium risk kids go. We have a treatment, substance abuse treatment, so TFCBT for more like marijuana, lower alcohol use. We have art there, aggression replacement therapy. We have Target, which is a trauma group. They also have an educational advocate there. We also have a job placement right now that they're all working through the DEEP program out of New London Parks. So it's kind of our middle level kids.
Yeah.
And that utilization had gone down, but it's definitely getting back up there.
So like, that's just for kids who end up at court, right?
Yes.
Like, they won't take any
No.
JRB kids or anything like that,
No.
right?
Yeah.
And do they still take truancies, or is it just delinquents?
No.
No, because you guys don't
we
see
don't
the
get
truancies,
truancies.
yeah,
We
yeah,
don't get any FWISNs anymore.
right.
And you're, I'm sure, not really seeing the FWISNs.
We're getting like we got a good amount of beyond controls.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because the officers have all the information for us, and so they'll either give the parents our card
Mhm.
and they'll reach out directly, or we've had at least a couple officers make referrals.
Oh, that's
So,
good.
yeah, when it's the families, we're not necessarily always making them fill out the whole paperwork, and just
Yeah.
kind of, most of them need an in-home therapy program, so we're kind of like expediting those, but we have got, I would say we probably, since they made the change, like probably 8, maybe,
That's good.
which in
Because
the
you
more
haven't.
truancies than we've gotten in the, what has it been, 3 years since the change?
Yeah, it's been a while,
So
yeah.
schools are making less, well, and part of that is because the school used to have, or they used to not have to get a parent signature to make a truancy referral to the court, but in order to make a truancy referral to us, the parents have to sign off, and oftentimes the big part of the issue is that it's hard to get the parents engaged and then to sign off, so.
Yeah.
So we haven't gotten any of those. But these parents with the beyond control, they're looking
That's
for
great.
help, yeah, so.
I know our MST is utilized, and we're not as much utilizing it as the community is.
Yeah.
Because the parents can refer themselves, you guys can refer them,
Yeah.
DCF can refer
And
them.
the benefit, I think, maybe, I don't know if it's from the pandemic, but there's been openings, like there's
Yeah.
not a lot of wait lists for in-home programs, so that's been
Yes.
nice. So. All right. So I don't know, I'm just thinking, is there anything, like what kind of things could we look into to reduce larceny, gun charges, which I know you are on a big, I'll let you talk about that. Trespassing and assault, you know what I mean, like maybe looking at ways we could like have some preventative programs or develop something for you guys to not refer us back to the YSB, but use us as a resource for a program or something if there isn't one.
So we have started a list of, we're trying to, because we go by tiers, so tier 1s, tier 2s, up to 5. 5's our highest risk. So we have started putting on there like, okay, so like a tier 3, 4 could be an MST, a tier 2 could be the youth programs, throughout the towns, and we're gonna put a list together and say, okay, and this is what they offer, so that the POs know, all right, you know what, this would be a perfect program. They don't have to be with you guys, they can stay with us, but utilize your program.
Yeah.
So
Okay, cool.
that'd be great.
Yeah, and if there's any like curriculums that you guys know of that no other programs are offering.
Yeah.
Related to any of these things, then we could maybe.
Yeah.
Get someone to do it.
That would be great.
All right, cool. Yeah, okay.
So, to build off the legislation changes marijuana. It's, believe it or not, less than 5 ounces, so it's even more.
Oh, okay.
But I talked to Aaron, and then I created because the state obviously didn't do it, created a warning
Yeah.
for any time they're in possession of marijuana.
Yep.
And on there, it'll be passed along to me, so that I can make the decision of JRB or not.
Okay.
Because all their cases come through me anyways right now.
Perfect.
It's not in place yet. I know they were working on trying to get approval to use it, and then it'll be used along with a summons, I guess, because the summons was supposed to be treated as though a written warning.
Yep.
So that's what it looks like we're gonna use, and Aaron was able to give me, just like, we're treating it as the health statement that they're supposed to sign if they're, 17 and 18, I think. Oh, the health statement's for 18 and 20, so that doesn't fit. Never mind. We can still use it, yeah.
Yeah, and we service, I mean, maybe not through the JRB necessarily,
Yeah.
but just program wise, we can work with kids that old.
Big thing, we're starting to see more cases coming through for JRB with regarding cell phones, with transmitting child pornography.
Oh, yeah.
More so the kids that are taking a picture, send it to their boyfriend, and then or send it to their ex, and the ex then puts it out on blast on certain websites or whatnot. So it's something that for needs, I was talking, who did I talk to? I can't remember who it was. I might have mentioned it to Justin, but talking about doing some sort of class regarding cell phone education and like the dangers of it, because we had one that just came through JRB where the girl basically was coerced into sending a picture because she didn't want to be considered a racist because she had a picture with a Trump flag and some girl called her out on it. And so she didn't really give us the full story when she was interviewed by us because it happened to be 2 of our black cops and she didn't want to come across as racist to them. So she left it out and then she disclosed it to Justin that it was if you don't send me a picture, I'm going to put this out to everyone. And it basically ties right into child trafficking.
Yeah.
I got trained on it like 6-8 months ago to be an instructor for child trafficking, and that's one of the biggest things they put out because you don't want to arrest the victims in these situations because it only pushes them down the wrong road. And this girl unfortunately got arrested, and she realistically was a victim in this. So I don't think any kids understand the dangers of this and what they're doing and who they're talking to online and where it could go. I mean, you think you're talking to someone and they could be masking the number and pretending to be their ex or being their boyfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
So if we could do some sort of cell phone education, we're supposed to be meeting with the assistant superintendent sometime soon. So I'm going to bring that up to her because I'd love to do it in the schools. I don't want it to be an optional thing. It's something they should be getting. Because we're seeing it more and more, and I don't want to see it blow up. Yeah, I guess for the purpose of that, then the biggest problem is like the cell phone education. Then.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we can still talk about the fact that there is a gang and gun issue, right? And then what can we do? It's such like those kids are already so deep into it. I don't know,
Well, I think a huge thing is mentorship. Like a lot of these kids have no guidance. And I see a lot of people that come through JRB that, they just, I don't want to be repetitive, but they need that guidance. And they don't have, I had one kid that got arrested. He's an athlete. Unfortunately, no father figure in his life. And, had the opportunity to go through JRB. I seemed like I connected with him. 2 days later, he's connected with the wrong people, throws a rock through a window, and unfortunately hits an elderly lady. And like now you're out of JRB and you're into the court system. And then, he's having issues at home and whatnot. And he's a good kid. I think he's a good kid deep down, but he just doesn't have that guidance.
Yeah.
So
Where's the mentoring program with you guys at? I know I've been out of touch with it.
It's not really, I thought it would be a simple thing to set up. And when you really deep dive into it, there's a lot of work into running a mentorship program. It's something that we have, several officers that are interested in it, but the time available to do that is very difficult to find.
Is this the one with the coolest?
No,
we tried to set up our own for the PD, so we had 7 or 8 cops that said they would be willing to work with the kids and whatnot. We had one cop that did it for a couple months, but his hands were pretty much tied with what he could do.
Mhm.
And the kid showed interest in certain things, but the parents didn't want the kid to do that, so it was just really hard. Like, and our resources are thin, so.
Yeah, like financial resources,
Yeah,
you
that's
mean?
it, yeah.
Okay, so that's something we should definitely talk about, because we have some grants that we can allocate some funds to, in terms of like, if it's paying for activities or even paying for overtime, if that's an issue.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, mentoring has always been a major lack in, and not just our city, I think it's just
We
all
lost our
around.
mentorship during the pandemic, and the biggest issue was that males didn't do it. We didn't have males, and we
Yeah.
needed males for males.
Yeah,
That these boys have enough females in their lives. They have therapists and doctors, and they have a lot of women. They need a strong male figure, and they just have the hardest time. And their processing, there was a mentorship. You couldn't even have a ticket, and so
Mhm.
that wasn't that one, but that's not practical.
Yeah.
You need real people in their lives. You
Yeah,
don't need
yeah.
perfect people. So
Yeah, no, it's even when we had some mentoring programs, that it was the same thing. I would refer a kid and they could never come up with a match, for whatever. And so it never, we'd say to this kid, like, you're gonna do mentoring, and then we never get a match, and then we use creative potential at one point, which that's a mentoring program, but they're therapeutic mentors that they pay, so it's very costly. So we could only really afford to send one kid through that program, and, which was great for that one kid, but it wasn't long lasting, so.
And didn't you guys used to set up, and I know this probably is not practical for the kids we're talking about, at least with the core systems, but maybe the JRBs, like seniors with younger kids?
Middle school kids,
Middle
yeah,
school,
or
okay.
high school and middle school kids. So we've done like tutoring / mentoring programs, which during the pandemic was difficult, but where the high school kids would go to the middle school during the after school program and sit with the kids and help them catch up with their work and do activities and things like that. So hopefully that will get back into place this school year. So that is helpful, but not, like it's definitely, we need to do that. And like, it would be nice if we could expand it to maybe outside of school and with adults.
What about reaching out to Three Rivers and seeing if they would give kids credit, or you've done it?
No, I'm saying, that's a great idea.
And maybe they get some type of credit for it,
Yeah,
college kids, they don't have to be, once again, perfect on paper, but
yeah,
kids who've lived real lives and, have had their own stuff, but they're on the right path, and
no, that's a
kids
great
would do
idea.
anything for money or credit.
Yeah. Well, and we do have, we have some funding that we can use towards that, and it's
Yeah.
minimal, but if they're gonna get some other incentive, and then,
Yeah.
But I just wanted to highlight, we did, Justin really got this off the ground, was a mentoring program between, NFA, like Project Outreach Kids, and athletes. And they were meeting with elementary school students, like second and third graders, via Zoom. But it went really well. There was like 50 kids engaged in the program
Wow.
altogether, including the mentors and mentees. And, Jody Savage had a huge part in it, and she came up with like activities that they would do together. Like, so they'd all come and then they'd go in their little breakout rooms and do activities and then come back and share. So hopefully, even if we have to continue that virtually, just because of the logistics of because it was during the school day. So hopefully we'll be able to keep that going. So that was really good. But yeah, no, it's a big hole, the mentoring thing.
I was going to, hoping to start to organize it, because I want to do it at the beginning of the school year, but I linked up with DJ Exum, who is now the head coach at Ledger High for basketball. And he was an athlete in this area, and his mom's, I think, big in the area with just working with the community. Not his mom, his aunt, sorry. But anyways, he gave me a story that he once went to New York with a family member, and he was involved with gangs. He wasn't. And he says he's a stranger walked by with basketball, and he was big into sports, and chose to go with this stranger to go play basketball rather than get involved with gangs and whatnot. And it just struck me because that's what's we're seeing now, like to make that choice, and this is a tough choice. So he's all on board, him and Marcus Outlaw, who I know is from Norwich, but they're both willing to come and talk. So I want to put on some sort of like forum for all the athletes in NFA or the area, and whoever wants to come.
Yeah,
And I also want to try to get other athletes that have had to make those difficult choices growing up. So maybe some of these kids that, 'cause unfortunately, a lot of these athletes have to make that choice. You know, gang life, sports, you know, education, things like that.
Yeah.
And you know, if they hear the stories like that, you know, it may sway them a little bit.
yeah. I wonder if the idea just popped in my head about doing some kind of partnership down at Night Flight with that, like having them go down during, because there's so many athletes and their families there, like maybe they could do just like a, you know, quick, you know, like they could each come separately and do like a halftime talk or, you know, something that would be, because that's an already made, we don't have to ask people to come to like a separate
They're
event.
already there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his goal is to reach out to the community.
Yeah,
not
yeah,
just do
Leonard
that
would
so
be
he
all
doesn't
over
get
that. And
anywhere.
I mean, I think he's scheduled like some things like that separately, like and like plan them even here, or no, at Kelly. But yeah, I'm sure they would be, and that's been my thing over the past couple of years is like going where people already are. You know, like just as an example, we did this thing a couple of years ago. It was like about like the opioid epidemic, and we invited parents, and this like theater group had done these like skits, and it was like
awesome.
it was such a great thing, and we had like 20 people showed up. Meanwhile, about 200 people walked by to go to a basketball game at NFA. You know, so to me, I was like, you know, instead of a halftime show or something, like, could we have done those skits like during halftime? And I also feel like a lot of times kids and parents will listen to kids. Like if we could like get a group of kids together, have them do like a vaping or some kind of education like snippet, like people are gonna watch that more than if like I go stand out there and talk. So, yeah.
That's a big thing, like, unfortunately, police are in a negative light right now, so, like, even tied into mentorship, like this, I tried to go talk to a kid through attendance review board, and he didn't say one word, which I think I'm a pretty personal person when I go and talk to people. Usually I can connect. I have 2 girls on the east side that I've actually connected really well with, and the mom's like, they never talk to anybody, and they've opened up to me. Unfortunately, they didn't go back to school, but still I'm able to build that relationship with them, which I want to long term. But with the mentorship, sometimes they're like, nah, I don't want to talk to cops. And I get it. Like that's the way it's viewed right now.
Right.
We truly want to help. But if we had a mentorship with people outside of uniform, I think it would be beneficial to these kids too. So
Yeah.
that's why I want to do this talk too, using, athletes from the area rather than, I can introduce them and explain the importance behind it, but I want them to hear from these athletes. So.
Yeah. There was another thing we brought up that I thought, like having other people who've experienced, like with the cell phone issue, like if we could get kids or young adults who maybe did send something and like experience the repercussions, like that might be something kids would like listen to more. And I'm gonna like go back to you and ask you all this stuff, what you think about all this, and if you think what you think kids or high school kids and middle school kids would actually, like to see. But
I would go out there, because I'm thinking, well, we're talking about these kids that I'm sure you know all their names, and they're 16, 17-year-olds, right? These groups and stuff, unfortunately, they would either laugh at or, the really heavily involved kids with us, right, at this point. So if there would be a way of connecting, because I think of these 13, 14-year-olds that would still listen, right, to athletes, but if you could get them to either the 8th grade or 9th graders talking to juniors about it, because they'll listen, they're athletes, they're still mind, and then they make a connection so that when they come to high school, they have that person that they see, and they see the positive influence, so it's not not to take away from the seniors, I'm sure they could do it too, but if you have a senior and then they leave, that younger kid that's still there with that positive influence, seeing them play football or seeing them in the hallway saying hi, because I know going to NFA was the most intimidating thing in my life. So you have that connection. I don't know, I just think that would be something.
Because then the membership continues.
Yeah. And and the 17-year-olds, those are harder ones where you need like the adult mentors where,
Mhm.
you know, they're doing stuff, so.
Right. Well, and some of these things that we're talking about, it's like figuring out a way to also like, how can we, when there's kids in like 4th and 5th grade that are nowhere near this stuff yet, but
Yeah.
maybe like at risk for it, like getting some of the programs into there to like do the prevention end of it while we're still trying to tackle like people that are, kids that are engaged already.
Yeah, kind of a preventive approach rather than reactive.
Yeah.
It's kind of how we live in public health too.
Well, it's like the 4th and 5th, like a big thing for us is like, unfortunately, we don't have school resource officers anymore. So we're
Yeah.
trying our best to utilize our community policing unit to get back into the schools. Hopefully in the fall, we'll be allowed to do that. But I talked to a guy down in Florida that's an SRO, or was an SRO for 25 years. And his big thing was from 2nd grade all the way through high school, he'd get, a period to speak to the kids in every grade going up. And in 2nd grade, it started with like crosswalk safety, and then it was stranger danger, and then it was, and so on and so forth. But like, that's where you can incorporate the cell phone stuff, but it's building those relationships early.
Yeah.
One, it helps with obviously police and engagement with police to say, hey, if I need help, they're there to help, they're not always bad. But also like teaching them, gang violence, who knows, in 6th, 7th grade, rather than them getting indoctrinated to it in high school, seeing it. But these are all things that if they teach you, like you said, preventative. But it would also help for us to be in schools to do that. And unfortunately, that's frowned upon now in this state. So.
Right. Well, we have some pretty good relationships with some school social workers, and I think you guys do too. I think it's a possibility. I'm glad you're meeting with Tamara, right? Is that who you're meeting
I
with?
think that's.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. I'm hoping I'll be involved in it. I know Sergeant Rankin's definitely going to be in it, but I'd like to be involved as well. So
Okay.
I think he knows that. So.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Good. How are things on your end?
Well, so admittedly, I had a little PTSD walking in the doors of the Rose City Senior
Oh, you've
Center
been doing a lot of
because
vaccinations
clinics
here,
we did.
yeah.
Which, by the way, I think we're at almost 6,300 vaccinations just by our health district and all of our MRC volunteers that came to staff the clinics. But now, obviously, youth is the focus, 12 years and up for vaccination. So we're kind of changing our focus from mass clinics to doing pop-up clinics. So we've been at Dixie Donuts, we're going to Dairy Queen in Taftville, we're going to the schools and setting up while they have youth programs going. We're kind of set up with our little, literally pop-up tent. And as people are driving by and they see that the vaccines are available, but the youth folks are also sending out blast emails to their campers or program participants to get their vaccine. I think what we're seeing is a lot of vaccine hesitancy at this point. People still not quite sure about it. Is this something I want to get? Is this something I want my child to have? So there's a lot of people that are sort of sitting on the fence, maybe leaning towards getting it, but then there's this whole section that just, no matter what we do for education, they're determined they're not going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Connecticut has done incredibly well with vaccination numbers. Eastern Connecticut seems to be a little bit further behind, but I think if you look at Eastern Connecticut compared to a lot of the rest of the state, we tend to have more rural areas. People aren't getting as close as they would in a larger urban center like Hartford, Bridgeport, New Haven. So they feel like there's not a need to be vaccinated because they're not as much in close contact with people. But with the variant that's out there now, the Delta variant, you've probably heard tons of stuff on the news about it. The good news is that the vaccines we have are protective against the variant, not from preventing you from getting it, but protecting you from serious illness and potentially hospitalization and obviously the worst case scenario, death. So if for no other reason, yes, you may still get coronavirus, but you're gonna have a much less intense episode. So we're trying to, keep the message out there that the vaccine, we still have plenty of vaccine available. We have all three, Pfizer, Moderna, and the Johnson & Johnson. And, I feel like the media certainly does no favors for public health because they tell a little bit of a story. They don't give you the whole story. And in the middle of the vaccine hesitancy crisis, today's news was Johnson & Johnson causes high risk, nerve damage illness. By the way, they couldn't even pronounce it right. It's Guillain-Barré syndrome. But it's a rare condition, like 1 in a couple 100,000 people. When you look at that risk and compare it to how many people have been infected and seriously ill or died from coronavirus, you kind of look at the scales and go, 1 in how many 100,000 to how many people did we have in the state that had coronavirus? So it's about educating people about all of the information, which is every person we sit down with, we have that conversation. Do you have any questions about your vaccine? Do you have any concerns about the vaccine? Let's talk about that now before we give you your dose so that you feel comfortable getting your dose. We're doing events, just like you said, Erin, going where people already are. So we're finding pockets in the communities where there seem to be lower numbers of vaccinations. We're going to be out at Carabetta apartments near Sandy Lane. There's a large Haitian population out there, and to do education initially, and then we'll come back with vaccine. We want people to get the information, process it, think about it, and make a decision on the right information, not bits and pieces that they see on social media or the regular news channels. So every time I see a story like that on the news, I go, really? You just made my job 10 times harder. Thank you so much. Yeah, I know. I'm sure you could relate. But I have to say that the things that I'm hearing this morning make me feel like the kids in this area are in good hands, and there's so many, and I'm always surprised at the things that are going on that I didn't hear about,
Right.
but now I have that information because we do work a lot with families that are in high stress situation. They've got lots of things going on, DCF involvement, things like that. But if we have more tools in our toolkit, then sometimes we can also be a resource to help get people connected to the right service or care. So I think that's it for us.
Well, and that point you bring up at the end is like always been a thing, is that we have so many things that we're doing and people don't know about it. And how do we, I don't, we do social media, we do email blasts, we send out press releases, whether or not they end up in the paper or not, it's out of our hands, but, I don't know what else. School, we send the flyers to schools and they go home with parents, so we're always open to any other ideas of how to reach people, because we'll do a training that's like, we hear people saying they need it, and so we create it and we have it, and we'll, like when it was in person, we offer transportation, we provide food, we provide childcare, and like 2 people would come. And even at first online, we were getting really good attendance, but then that of course dwindled too. So yeah, any ideas about that are always welcome. So
I'm dying to hear what you
I was
have
gonna
to
say, and that's why you're here, because you're gonna be so creative with the younger
No
population.
question, but I don't know. I don't think I have anything else on my head now.
But I heard a lot of really good ideas, like, oh gosh, you guys were just saying something that I was thinking of. Oh, being where people already are. I think that's like an amazing idea because like, I was thinking a charity event for that basketball thing, but you just said that they already do that. So that was one thing I was thinking about, like having people go there and talk during those types of things. Cause a lot of the time most of us like to get together mostly for sports, which is also unfortunate because there's so much other programs, but it's just like, that's the one thing that really brings us all together.
Mhm.
And so I think that when it comes to sports, hosting those types of events, like charity events for Norwich, that would like, raise funds for that or for specific schools. And then, just having people come and speak there, I think that would help a lot. But other than that, I don't think I have anything off the top of my head now.
Okay, are you, seeing things in school, or even if younger kids that you, like, even as a friend that you're concerned about, in addition to like anything we've talked about, like I'm wondering, are you seeing, we did talk about this, but like, are you seeing kids talking about sending photos and like things like that? That's like a pretty prevalent thing, I think, but I don't know if that's like, are you guys talking about that kind of thing?
I don't know if we're talking about it, but I know that like it's really common. I think that a lot of people do it, honestly. And so everything you guys were saying, like it's super common things that I've heard myself and that I see and stuff. But I don't think it's something where we're just like shaming each other for it. Like you hear people do it, but you try not to be that person. But I do think that it's a major issue that's going on.
So do you think when you hear it happening that people are processing like this is against the law, like, or do you think that it's just sort of acceptable now and they're not realizing like it could either be child porn, which is a felony, or it could just be sexting?
I definitely think that it's normalized, but I also think that it's so normalized to the point where people don't even think child pornography when they think about it. Like, they just think pictures, but they don't really realize that until, like somebody's talking to you about it or you're in that specific situation. But it's like super normalized. Like, so normalized.
That whole education. I think on your calendar.
Yeah, he would do an internet safety. He did. Yeah. And I think, yes, while 100% necessary and beneficial, I think kids have to hear from kids. Like it's, I just don't know, that it's gonna hit home until you hear about from another kid who's like, yeah, I sent this picture to my boyfriend and then we broke up and he's posted it on Instagram, and it's like, ooh, like more, and I got arrested and I had to go to court and I was like, really, I didn't know that was gonna happen to me. And, I think sometimes so even if we could do it like together, like an officer and a kid or something like that. Yeah, there's a couple bugs.
And is it not brought up in health class? Because I feel like that, like, 'cause to say it one time is great, but if you hear it from health class and then you hear it from Officer McKinney and then you hear it, your friends start to talk about it, so it's like something that's reiterated. Is it not brought up in health?
When I first took health in high school, which was my freshman year because I did all online last year, we didn't really talk about it last year, but the year before, it might have been mentioned in conversation like once, but there was never like a complete lesson on it. It's really, I honestly like, it's really not brought up that much in school unless you're like in that situation and teachers know or like somebody knows and they're speaking to you about it. But other than that, you don't really hear it in school often, but.
Yeah, I think that's necessary on so many topics, right?
Yeah.
Like, for me, like, I grew up in Waterford, and I lived in Norwich for a few years, but, like, as a cop, like, it opened my eyes to so much, and I feel like that's the same thing with, like, you're in high school, and you don't realize it until someone starts talking about it, and everything's addressed in the moment, rather than, like, the preventative side. So, like, getting it out there earlier and opening these people, the kids' eyes to, hey, this is a possibility. I don't want to make it seem like it's a scare tactic, but also just being educated on it would be important. So you're not thrown into it. Like, how many kids, get sat down and they're like, hey, this is against the law, you're being arrested for this. And I'm like I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, even
Like,
though maybe they sat in the class about it, because you're right, if they only hear it once and it doesn't stick,
Or you have a poor girl that comes in and says it, and then she finds out she has to be arrested for it because she's the one who first sent it out, and now she's like, I don't want, but.
You get so many people with that law change that come in and like, hey, you know, I want to report this, and they're like, hey, it's like we come across as the bad guys. We're like, okay, we'll do that, but your child's getting arrested too, and like, why? And it's
Yeah,
you're sending the
Which
picture.
if that gets out, right, then
Yeah.
a kid does do something that's like along this line of like getting caught up in some kind of like trafficking situation where they're being lured into doing something, they're not gonna be as willing to come forward.
Yeah.
I do like, though, I have heard that a lot of JRBs, not just Norwich's, but a lot of JRBs are taking the sexting ones. Because at first nobody wanted to touch them.
Yeah,
And now it's, because they really don't have to come through the court system, because this is really something that they could be educated, and, you know, community service is not like, you know, what they need to do, they need to be educated. So we really, while we see it, we don't see it as often, you know, the child porn we do.
right.
It's like the one that came through, one of the things she's doing for JRB is writing a research paper on this tied to child trafficking.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
she'll leave it understanding like, okay, this is why it's tied together.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and then how can we use that? I mean, she might not specifically be willing to put herself out there, but how can we use the work that she does anonymously to spread the word to other kids, right? You know what I mean? We had a kid last year who did like donuts in the school stand parking lot, and he did like basically a video about how making like a split decision like that, like he wanted to go to like, I mean, and he still could because of the JRB, but like his future all of a sudden became like at risk for going to a specific college because he might have had a charge, you know, and he did like a little kind of PSA about it. And we did talk to him about sharing it, and he wasn't comfortable, which is totally fine. But I think using those opportunities for our kids, and then like they become like it becomes a leadership opportunity, even if they want to stay anonymous, they know, you know, that they helped. So.
And so we had another girl that got arrested for vaping and for vaping with THC, and she met with Ray Allen at drug education, and she came into the next meeting. She's like, I had no idea the chemicals they put into that. And then she even said, like, because we had mentioned, like, hey, be careful with the friends you choose, because if they're forcing that on you, like, maybe it's time to say, no, I'm all set and not hang out. We just had a follow-up meeting with her, and she's like, yeah, I was faced with it like a week or two after our meeting. I had to tell them, no, I don't feel like hanging out with you. And she's like, those are my friends. And she goes, but afterwards, I was like, yeah, I did the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Wow, that's good.
you don't see that too often.
Yeah, that's hard, yeah.
So,
So is there anything going on that we're missing out on that we're not talking about that we should be aware of?
No, you guys are like right on the nose with everything that's going on. Like, a lot of these things, they know, or I want to say we, because, you know, we all make mistakes, but like we all know like the consequences. We just don't acknowledge them. We kind of just push them to the side. Like we know that if we do this, that, and a third, that this is that to happen. But it's just like, you know, the probability, that's what we're thinking
It's
about.
not
So like
gonna happen to them.
right, yeah, like,
We're
you know,
invincible.
right, or like, you know, what's the likelihood of that happening? But, you know, some of these kids, they don't, well, some of us, we really don't think until you're like way at the bottom.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
really
part of your
bad.
brain
It's a lot
development.
of-
That's what I was thinking in my head. You get a pass because your brain's not developed.
No, but a lot of this stuff, it really is normalized. Like, it's so normal. Like, it's so normal.
Which is sad.
It is.
But it also speaks to the point about the earlier you can intervene and sort of set the stage for, okay, so you may gradually start this down this path, but stop it here.
Yeah.
Because if they get, I mean, I always think about the fire service and how, you know, how many messages do you remember from being a child that Smokey Bear came out and said, stop, drop, and roll.
Right.
Like that is ingrained in every kid's
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a little old.
No, me too. No,
Oh, me too.
my children, I don't think you're getting that.
Yeah.
But
That's true, though.
but we've said that about substance abuse, we've said that about bullying, we've said that about, when you see kindergartners correcting their parents on how to sneeze into their elbow instead of their hands.
Mhm.
There's so much evidence out there that doing that education at that early level sets patterns into place for the rest of their life, habits that are going to be so ingrained that doing something that is not normal or expected, like sexting or sending whatever pictures, that they already know, oh, no, that's bad.
Yeah.
And then you've got the majority of that age group with that education that's gonna continue to move up. So eventually the thought is, it's gonna just go away.
Right.
But if we keep waiting until it's too late to do the education, then I feel like sometimes we've already lost them.
Yeah, we're just chasing our tail.
And it's, and we're unfortunately picking the pieces up after the fact.
Yeah,
Well, I think people have to get out of the mentality, and I'd be curious of how to do that, because my kids go to private school, so when I think of this, I'm like, let's get this in their school. But this whole belief that if you educate them on it, then they're more apt to do it. You know that? People like,
Oh,
you educate them on
yeah, you
THC,
tell
they're
them
gonna be
about it.
interested in marijuana.
Yeah.
You educate, and while my school's better at doing stuff after hours, I would love it if they do stuff, and I don't know if the middle schools, the public middle schools are open to this stuff, but that belief is just not reality.
Yeah.
These kids are
Yeah.
talking about it, my kids are talking about it, so, and I just know so many parents that like turn away and like don't talk to them about bulimic, because then they're gonna, so
Right,
I don't know what kind of pushback you guys get, but I've definitely seen it before.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I see as the public health nurse is all the STI reports that come in. So the chlamydia, the gonorrhea, the trichomonas, the syphilis.
Yeah.
And the ages are getting younger and younger and younger. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like that, when you say that people are talking about it or it's normalized, some conversations I've had with kids as young as middle school is kind of alarming that, as you said, this is kind of normalized. And I don't think parents necessarily know what's going on. Maybe they don't want to know that that's going on. I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure where the,
well, it's the same mentality of not me, not my kid.
Yes.
Like that parents just don't think, even when we have like the substance use prevention programs or drunk driving programs like that most parents are thinking, well, my kid's not gonna use substances, so I don't have to go to that training, and that's unfortunately not the case.
We also all grew up without social media.
yes.
And that's why it's glorified on social media, so they're getting all the quote unquote positives from their friends of, oh, this is why smoking THC or smoking marijuana is good, and you see all that. You see the pros, and you see athletes, I'll go back to athletes, like, the NBA, the NFL, like, they're not, enforcing marijuana anymore because there's benefits to recovery and whatnot. That's all the kids see, but they don't see, there's no education on the other side saying, okay, well, these are the negatives, because all they're saying is these positives. So that's where the school needs to at least implement the negatives, so when they see these positives, they go, oh yeah, but there's also this.
Right.
And now you have a choice, rather than, oh, well, I'm only seeing good things, so I'm gonna go do this.
Right. Well, and that's gonna be something big we have to address, and I'm curious how kids are talking about marijuana being legalized, but it's like, it's still not good for you to smoke, I mean.
Because I thought it was like you have to be like 21 to even have.
Oh,
marijuana in
that's
your person.
true, but.
So it's like, I'm so confused on why everybody's so excited. You're like 16.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
just
Because
like,
in their
don't
mind,
yeah.
it's legalized.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you
yeah.
still can't have marijuana on your person.
Right.
Like, I just don't understand that.
Yeah, and though when they find out that they can get caught with like this huge amount of marijuana and just have a potential warning, like what's the risk? And then if they are doing it all in different towns, like there's no like system,
It's just tough to track, We only see, when I look at it, I can only see what's happening in Norwich.
Right.
Well, I'm excited you guys created that. So Dad had told me, and I'm sitting, so we're gonna have to have a conversation with all the POs that sit on other JRBs to find out what the towns are doing, because like, if you didn't come up with that, you could have 3 different cops giving them warnings, and that should have been the time that they came to the courts,
Right.
And like you said, they can go to Montville. I mean, I don't know your guys' system, but I don't, like, is there a way to get where Montville sends a copy of whatever they have to you guys, to the town they live in, and?
Well, that's what they're supposed to do. Like, anytime I have anything, Jared, any juvenile arrest that comes across mine, if they have an address in another city, I call that whatever agency is responsible, hey, you, JRB, we got this kid, this is what's going on, like, how do you want to handle it?
Yep.
Some places are great, and they'll be like, yeah, we haven't, send the report over, some don't answer, some don't reply, so then
Yeah.
ultimately I just send it down to court.
Yeah.
But at least that's what they're supposed to do.
Okay.
That we do the same kind of thing in the health department. When somebody has a communicable disease, it goes to the health department where the person lives, so that we can act on it.
Yeah.
So, but even that system's not perfect. I mean, hepatitis C, which is a huge issue, especially in relation to substance use. The way that the system is created right now, I can see anyone who had a test done now that lives in my town.
Yeah.
But if they had a test done 2 years ago and they were living somewhere else, I can't see it, because I can only see what's in my town.
Okay.
So we actually have a special project right now where I can search the state database for these individuals to see what their prior Hep C history is. Have they had it for 10 years? Have they had it for 2 years?
Yeah.
Did they get treated? Did they not? So I understand the frustration of systems that don't
Yeah.
talk to each other from a computer standpoint, but also, not everybody's invested in the Hep C project like we are. Different health departments have different priorities, but it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. And I mean, I just think, like, if a kid is getting caught with even an ounce of weed, like, that's a problem that needs to be addressed immediately, not like, oh, okay, so never mind 5 ounces, that's just crazy to me.
On top of this, there's not many cases, but there have been cases with marijuana being laced with fentanyl.
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah,
what's
We've
gonna
had
happen?
kids smoke it.
Yeah.
We don't know what, but they end up hospitalized, yeah.
yeah.
And that was the other thing I meant to say is that we're looking to restart our spring service program September 1st.
Oh, okay, good.
But we are also contemplating going to a couple of different locations where we know based on police information that are high use areas. And that coupled with Steve Feathers from Perceptions
Yeah,
has mentioned that just because of the home deliveries he does, he kind of sees pockets of individuals in
Yeah.
particular sections. So
yeah, I think we're meeting tomorrow to work on scheduling a Narcan training in Greenville, because I
Yes.
think that's a
That's
high,
one of the
yeah,
sites.
so,
Yeah.
through the
Greenville,
task
Campbell.
force, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start going out with Steve to some of the setup sites for the
Yeah.
band, because we're not seeing the amount of folks coming to the band behind the Y that was. They're just not coming. Some of them have either moved on or they're in home delivery now versus coming to the band. So, but we think it's time to find another location.
Yeah, and then I think maybe he was talking about doing part of the training with the Narcan, doing some like HIV, training.
Yep.
in combo,
And
so,
we can do rapid testing for Hep C and HIV.
Yeah,
That one of the HIV tests now you can get a result in 60 seconds.
Oh, well.
So it used to take 20,
Mm.
but there's a newer test out there now that 1 drop of blood, you can get your Hep C rapid test and you can get your
okay,
HIV rapid test.
okay,
And so we really want to get the word out about testing, and then we can be a resource to get them connected to further care. And
yeah, okay.
so,
We connected with someone from a program this past year, and the name escapes me, but they have a curriculum on health education and sex education that they can do for us. We just have to connect them to the school. And like Sachem has always been a school that they'll let us come in and do almost anything. They have some administrative changes this year, so I'm not sure how that'll go. Hopefully we'll still be in there. But to speak to what you were saying, like, I think the schools are getting more open to us coming in and doing things. Like, there's still, like, we had that film.
So good.
And so through middle college and IDCS all played it for all of their students. The middle schools were both open to it, but I think it just got over their heads. Like, so, but that was still like a step, it was
Yeah.
like a progressive step to where they were at least like, yeah, I think we can make this happen. And then, it fell through, but that was a step in the right direction. And NFA has been much more open than in past years to us coming in, like we did, they were doing it, the teen driving thing that we did, they were open to doing that, and like, again, things like it fell through, but the fact that we at least had it on the calendar and it was gonna maybe happen was like, and they actually got the like film on their own, so those kids all did see it, even though it just wasn't through our purchase. And then they started sending kids who got caught with like marijuana, like a little bit, and maybe they were talking about kids like getting into fights and sending them to us without arresting them, so that we can do like,
Wow.
so all those kids did like an online marijuana class and then did some community service with Justin, and they didn't end up getting arrested. So
That's great.
yeah, especially for the fights, like, I don't know how many fights you see at in but
The other thing, so Jody and I had a conversation pre-pandemic about me potentially getting into NFA to do some education on Hep C and STIs.
yeah,
And, you know, talk about the link between substance use, IV drug use, and the risk for Hep C being so high.
okay,
So I intend to get back in touch with her and see
okay,
if we can make that happen. It was gonna be part of, I think, the health curriculum,
okay,
so maybe 1 hour a semester or something like that, but,
okay,
um,
all right.
Yeah.
All right, cool, thanks to you guys, that was a great discussion. I think part of what I wanna do is we meet every other month, so finding a way in between, to follow up on all of these like bullet points, so when I do the minutes, I'll kind of like come up with some way that we can follow up and do something, so we're not just like talking about all these great ideas and then we don't see each other for 2 months, and so we're like, but with that, if Justin resigned, so I don't know if everyone got to meet Justin, I know Bob worked with him closely, but he got a job at the Youth Service Bureau in Madison where he lives, so it totally makes sense for him, and awesome, but huge loss for us, especially like he's really getting his feet under him and like flying, so yeah, so we'll be having to, have someone new come on, and I'm sure we'll get someone else great, but that's gonna take some time. And then I'm not sure if you guys have heard, it was in the paper, but Leanne's postponing her retirement again. So who knows when that's gonna be. Are you working at City Hall right now? Yeah, so you get to work with Leanne a lot. I mean, great for us. I mean, I like, especially for me, because I left for maternity leave and I thought I was done with her as my boss, and I get to come back to her, which is, I'm grateful for, but I do wish her like the joy of retirement, so. So
Do you know
there's,
how long she's postponing it for?
I don't, I think at least until October, but I feel like it's like, it's gonna probably be a bit, because if they repost her position, like say in October, and then it takes time, but I don't know how soon they're reposting it, so. So also, if you have kids or know of kids that live in Norwich that need backpacks, Jody is doing the community backpack program, so just let me know and I can get you the form and get that filled out. We're doing summer jam right now, so we're in the middle of our 3rd week of summer jam, so we have 10 kids that are meeting at St. Mark's Church Monday through Thursday, 9 to 3. Engaging in like some community, like yesterday they went to the Ross Adult Center and like brought them snacks and flowers and stuff. Yeah, it was nice. They're going to High Hopes. I want to connect with you about seeing if some officers can go down there one day just to hang out with the kids. They've done that in the
We got an
past.
email, I think it was from Justin.
Oh, okay.
Asking, and Nick said something about him coming down Tuesday and Jay coming down Monday.
Oh, great. Oh, okay, so
I'm
sweet.
not always on days I'm assigned to evenings, but most of the time Mondays, Thursday.
Okay.
So I should be able to get down
Okay, yeah, they said, I think Monday and Tuesday are the best day.
Alright.
Yeah, because Thursdays they go on field trips,
Oh.
but that's okay. That's cool. So, and we're gonna try to do some trainings, or not trainings, but discussions with those kids about some LGBTQ and some race stuff, because the things that are coming out of their mouths are just pretty hateful and negative, and they're young, and they are not, I don't think they are 100% like even knowing
Right.
what is behind those words. Like, I was saying to them when they say something like that, maybe asking like, oh, why do you feel that way? You know, instead of just like, don't say that, that's not okay, you know, like, because they might be like, I don't even know why I'm saying that, or they'll share and then we can, you know, have that conversation. So it's, you know, Summer Jam is always a bit of a interesting and sometimes challenging program. So, but we got approved for funding for it for 3 years, so we don't have to
Nice.
reapply every year, which is nice. We're gonna do Family Day again in person at Mohegan Park, so that'll be September 19th. And then we're gonna partner with some people like Rose City United and stuff on that Water Wars. So they're gonna do a huge thing on August 7th in Norwich for the community, like a water war, big like field day kind of thing.
Dump tank, water balloons, water guns, but just a bunch of other, we're involved in the fire department. What else? I think they were talking about getting a bounce house or a water slide. We had a water slide at the RCU event we just did on Saturday,
Yeah,
which was pretty cool.
yeah, that was cool.
But yeah, it looks like it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's
They-
exciting.
Remind me again about Family Day. You said September 19th, but I'm pandemic brain mush right now. What exactly are you doing at Family Day? That's not the same as the suicide hotline.
No, Family Day is the one at Mohegan Park where there's like a ton of resource tables, but then we have a lot of kids' activities. They do the Harry-O race, fun run before, and families just come down. It's free. We do hot dogs and chips, and there's like entertainment and a DJ, and then like resource tables and stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll send out an email about it soon
Okay.
to get people to sign on for it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what's going on with us. That's about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just happy to be here in person.
Yeah, me
Yes.
too. I mean, what a great, I feel like that we got a lot of things on the table and a lot to like run with, so I'm excited. So thanks for coming. Anybody have anything else?
I remember something after we all.
Okay. Let me shut this when I stop recording.